Welcome back, folks. You know, in today's America, nothing screams brave resistance quite like throwing a temper tantrum over a car purchase. If you'll remember, just a few months ago, back when Biden was still president, the economy was sputtering, crime was soaring, and the border looked like a Black Friday sale with no checkout lines. All of that has mostly been solved by Trump miraculously, but the left has chosen a new existential crisis. Donald Trump buying a Tesla. That's right. Tim Walz's daughter is clutching her pearls because the man who lives rent-free in her head dared to buy a car from Elon Musk. Apparently, supporting an American company is now dystopian, which is ironic because the only dystopian thing here is the left's full-blown meltdown over a car. Meanwhile, Democrats are out here setting Tesla dealerships on fire like it's some kind of Antifa-themed tailgate party, and they want to believe that's just a peaceful protest. The mental gymnastics would win gold in the woke Olympics, but hey, let's dive in and watch the lunacy unfold, shall we?
Literally kidnapping somebody that you disagree with politically, and then just a couple days later, staging some weird commercial for your friend who spent a ridiculous amount of money on your reelection for his cars in front of the White House is dystopian as hell. Meanwhile, the markets are crashing. There's measles outbreaks. They're literally ripping apart the Department of Education and therefore public education. Oh, and eggs are still fucking expensive.
No, they're not.
More so, actually.
No, they actually went down $2.
It's not like anybody told people that this would happen. Oh, wait. People did. People literally said all of this would happen. At this point, if you're still defending it, there's no coming back from it. I'm a pretty forgiving person, but we are so far past that point. I think a lot of people are so far past that point, so I'm probably just like beating a dead horse at this point. But yeah, it's truly astonishing how far we have fallen in such a short time. But again, people told you that this would happen, so here we are.
Oh boy, where do we even begin with this unhinged word salad of a meltdown? Let's start with the absolute theater of calling Trump buying a Tesla dystopian. Really? Orwell didn't warn us about totalitarianisms creeping in through the free market. He warned about the kind of authoritarian brain rot that leads people to believe banning dissent and silencing political opponents is democracy. But sure, let's clutch our pearls because the president of the United States dared to buy a car. Now, let's talk about her kidnapping accusation. No evidence, no explanation, just tossing out a completely insane claim like it's common knowledge. Typical leftist strategy, make a wild accusation, hope people just nod along, and then move on before anyone asks for proof. Now, maybe she's just talking about Mahmoud Khalil, the pro-Hamas organizer who led the anti-Israel protests at Columbia, who, by the way, had high-level security clearance from the UK government, which is a whole other scandal, and has now been taken by ICE and is in the process of being deported. A foreign national radicalizing students at an elite American university while holding British government clearance? Yeah, that doesn't sound dystopian at all. But sure, let's cry about Trump buying a Tesla instead of addressing the fact that the left is openly defending people with terror group connections operating on American soil. And then there's the laughable idea that a president standing next to a business owner and showing support for an American company is some kind of dark dystopian commercial. Would love to know where all this outrage was when Obama was bailing out GM or when Biden was parading around with union bosses and giving sweetheart deals to electric vehicle manufacturers who just so happen to be Democrat donors. Apparently, if a Republican does anything in front of a camera, it's staged propaganda. But when a Democrat does it, it's just good leadership. The double standard is so blatant, it's not even fun to point out anymore. Actually, it's still fun. It's never not going to be fun. Anyway, let's talk about the absolute clown show logic behind blaming Trump for Tesla's stock dropping. Does Trump control the Federal Reserve now? Does he purposely have control and choose to press the big red button and tank the economy? Oh, wait, that is actually all a direct result of Biden's inflation, Biden's disastrous spending, and Biden's war on domestic energy. Tesla's stock didn't crater because Trump bought one. It's been in free fall for a year, largely thanks to leftist activists deliberately trying to destroy Musk for not towing the woke line. They're literally bragging about their efforts to kill Tesla, then turning around and blaming Trump when it actually happens. The mental gymnastics required here should qualify as an Olympic sport. And that brings us to the biggest howler of it all, the setting cars on fire. It's just peaceful protesting. That's right, folks. These woke mobs are vandalizing Tesla dealerships, torching Cybertrucks, harassing workers, and we're supposed to pretend it's some innocent little boycott. Sorry. But when you're smashing windows and destroying private property, you don't get to hide behind the First Amendment. You can scream peaceful protests all you want, but if your protests involve arson and violence, congratulations, you're a domestic terrorist. The fact that Trump is calling it out is what really bothers them, because for the last decade, the left has treated political violence as their exclusive tool. If it's Antifa or climate activists rioting, that's passion. But if Trump so much acknowledges it, suddenly we're in 1984. And let's not forget the absolute hypocrisy of calling Musk some kind of villain. The left loved him when he was building electric cars and launching rockets, but the second he started questioning censorship and government overreach, he became public enemy number one. These people don't actually care about the environment, innovation, or the economy. They care about control. Musk went off script, and now they want him destroyed. That's why they're boycotting Tesla. Not because of anything rational, it's because they can't stand that a billionaire isn't bending the knee to them. Finally, let's address the self-righteousness, the "we told you so" nonsense. What exactly did they tell us that was supposed to be so prophetic? That a Republican president would be pro-business? That leftist mobs would keep trying to burn down anything they don't like? That the economy would continue to spiral thanks to Democrat policies? Because if that's the big revelation here, congratulations. You're just describing reality, not predicting it. Look, at the end of the day, Tampon Tim's daughter's entire tantrum is just another example of the left's complete inability to process anything outside their cult-like bubble. They can't just disagree with something. It has to be evil, fascist, and dystopian. They see a president supporting an American business and react like it's some Orwellian nightmare, all while conveniently ignoring their own side's blatant corruption, censorship, and actual political violence. It's projection at its finest. Oh, but the Elon meltdowns didn't stop there, because this guy went ballistic because of Doge.
I'm a veteran and you don't give a fuck about me. Shut the fuck up.
So to be clear, I deeply value the contributions that
Just to be clear,
make
you're bullshit and you're not
Quiet down.
telling the
every
truth.
day
You're not
to keep
listening.
Let him speak. Let him speak.
important services. For example, folks at the National Weather Service are
Ah, yes, another totally organic grassroots moment of public outrage. If by grassroots you mean Soros-funded AstroTurf. Because let's be real, every time you see one of these unhinged media scripted meltdowns, you can bet there's a real money trail leading straight back to the same leftist billionaire slush funds that prop up every fake protest, every coordinated smear campaign, and every staged movement the media conveniently amplifies. Here we have some guy down in Asheville, North Carolina, screaming, foaming at the mouth, shouting expletives at a town hall, not debating, not asking questions, not engaging, just throwing a toddler-tier tantrum because he's been programmed to believe that Doge, the department actually cutting wasteful government spending, is somehow stealing his Social Security check. I mean, forget the actual facts, like how Social Security is still being paid out in full. No, this guy's being fed his script by MSNBC, and now he's out in public performing it like a trained SEAL. And notice a classic move here, the veteran card. Now, don't get me wrong, respect to all actual veterans, but the second someone leads with, "I'm a veteran, therefore I'm right and you must obey," you already know it's a weak argument propped up by emotional manipulation. It's the same tired playbook. Just like, as a woman, as a person of color, as an oppressed victim of insert vague systemic injustice here, it's never about discussing policy. It's demanding obedience through identity politics. But here's where it gets even funnier. This guy is literally screaming the exact same talking points you see on CNN and social media. The same buzzwords, the same hysteria, the same doomsday predictions about Doge, almost like it was coordinated. Because It is. This isn't some concerned citizen who just happened to lose it at a town hall while the phone is perfectly framed and ready to capture the confrontation from the very beginning as he stands from his seat. This is a part of a manufactured dissent machine. Groups backed by Soros and other leftist elites are funding these protests, planting activists, and using the media to amplify their screeching fits as if they represent real public sentiment. Spoiler alert, they don't. And what happens? He gets kicked out. Because even in one of the wokest cities in North Carolina, there's only so much screeching people can tolerate before they say, all right, buddy, take it outside. That's what the left doesn't get. Normal people are sick of this kind of stuff. The overplayed rage, the scripted outrage, the blatant lies about government policy. So the real question isn't why this guy lost it. It's why the people funding him keep thinking this works. Because outside the blue sky echo chamber and the mainstream media, Americans aren't actually buying it. But apparently the memo that went out to the Democrat Party is, it's meltdown season, baby. Because they're having all of their surrogates go on every network and do pretty much the same that guy did just a second ago.
And when they cut half the people, it's like evisceration by 1,000 cuts. Yeah. So you want to do this? Have the fight with us in Congress. Let's make sure we get the issues out there. I'm so mad. I'm spitting mad about this because it's hurting the people who can't vote. Children don't vote. Let's not take away their opportunity.
Anybody else not surprised that Randi Weingarten is spitting mad again? What a shocker. When is she not having a meltdown on TV? This woman has been in a perpetual state of hysteria ever since parents started waking up to what the teachers' unions have been doing to their kids. And now because Trump is shutting down the Department of Education, a bloated, useless agency that's done more to destroy public schooling than improve it, she's bouncing around on television like a malfunctioning wind-up toy, screeching about an evisceration that somehow affects children who can't even vote. First of all, love how she frames this as an attack on kids, as if the Department of Education has been anything other than a bureaucratic black hole that siphons tax dollars while test scores plummet and the classrooms turn into political indoctrination camps. That's what's hurting children. Not Trump cutting the federal dead weight, but the fact that public schools have spent decades prioritizing union power and woke ideology over actual education. And then there's a classic Weingarten strategy, turn everything into a fight. Have the fight with us in Congress, she yells. Oh, please. The teachers' unions don't fight for kids. They fight for power, tenure, and keeping bad teachers on the payroll no matter how abysmal their performance is. That's why she's really spitting mad, because Trump is gutting her gravy train. And here's the harsh reality. Education isn't disappearing just because the Department of Education is. Schools are run at the state and local levels where they belong. Parents are taking back control from the corrupt union bosses who turned public schools into ideological battlegrounds. And Randi, well, she can keep bouncing on TV all she wants, but she's still just another flailing bureaucrat watching her empire crumble. You know, folks, Jasmine Crockett says so many dumb things on a daily basis that I'm starting to think that we should just make a jingle and turn this into an official segment because, holy cow, she can't keep her mouth shut.
You're close with Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez of New York. Some of your fellow House Democrats say, and not just progressives, by the way, we've heard that moderates have said this too, that they're ready to support her to challenge Chuck Schumer in a Democratic primary. Would you get behind that?
That's 4 years from now. If you were asking me at least in 2 years, then I would have an absolute answer. But I can tell you that there are a lot of people that are watching his leadership in this moment. This is the moment. We don't even know what elections will look like in 4 years, if we will have elections.
In the words of Matthew McConaughey, this country just keeps getting older, but the playbook stays the same because another Democrat pretending the end of democracy is upon us because their party isn't in power. Representative Jasmine Crockett suggested that the United States might not have elections in 4 years, implying that President Trump is some sort of dictator hell-bent on dismantling democratic norms. This is the same tired narrative we've heard before for years. And it's just as baseless now as it was then. First off, let's get one thing straight. The United States has held elections through wars, economic depressions, and even a civil war. The idea that elections would be suspended under President Trump is not only absurd, but also a blatant fear-mongering tactic designed to sow distrust in our democratic institutions. It's ironic that those who claim to defend democracy are so quick to undermine it with unfounded allegations. Crockett's comments are part of a broader pattern among some Democrats who, unable to accept electoral outcomes, resort to hyperbole and scare tactics. Instead of offering constructive policy alternatives or engaging in meaningful, substantive debate, they choose to stoke fear and division. This approach is not only unproductive, but also harmful to the very fabric of our democracy. I think it's also important to note that this statement went completely unchallenged by Jake Tapper. This man was just like, all right, yeah, let's just keep on going, allowing these baseless claims to gain traction among certain audiences. This lack of accountability contributes to the polarizing and misinformation that plague our political discourse today, sadly. Look, at the end of the day, Crockett's suggestion that the U.S. might not have elections in 4 years is nothing more than unfounded hysteria. If our elected officials actually cared about our country and us as much as they claim they do, they would start focusing on real issues and engaging in substantive discussions rather than resorting to fear-mongering and baseless accusations. But I think we all know why they don't do that. Next up, we have Don Lemon, who I guess is still trying to make lemonade out of his firing from CNN. And he recently had some very interesting thoughts to share with Bill Maher.
When I see not all black Republicans, but I see a black MAGA person who is carrying Donald Trump's water and they know that he's lying, it is the shortest line to the front. Because if you're black and you're whatever, you're just in line with a bunch of other Democrats that are doing the same thing that you're doing. But if you become a black MAGA person, it's like, whoa, let's book this person, let's put him on television.
So you don't think you can be a sincere black MAGA person?
No, I just said, I don't think that, I just said, I think there can be sincere Republicans.
But you can't be a sincere black Republican?
I don't think that you can be a rational MAGA, be black and be a rational MAGA person. I think you can be black and be a Republican.
I think they would find that very insulting.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, the truth is often insulting.
Looks like Don Lemon is back with another round of approved opinions for black Americans. According to him, you can be black and Republican, but if you support Trump, well, that apparently defies the laws of rational thought, because in Lemon's world, political diversity among black Republicans isn't allowed. It's groupthink or bust. Let's break down this nonsense. First, the idea that black MAGA supporters are only doing it for attention is straight up insulting, because, of course, in the mind of a coastal elite like Don, no black person could possibly support Trump on their own terms. It must be some cynical ploy for airtime. He has to be a grifter. This is the same patronizing plantation politics the left has been pushing for decades. If you're black, you must vote Democrat, or else you're a sellout. And notice the classic rhetorical trick. He pretends to allow for black Republicans, but the second you add MAGA into the mix, suddenly you lose all ability to think rationally. What's his argument? That believing in border security, economic empowerment, and law and order is irrational now. That rejecting the Democrat Party's failed policies is irrational now. Because last time I checked, black unemployment hit record lows under Trump's first term. Black home ownership was rising, and historically black colleges and universities got more funding than ever before, even more than under Obama. But sure, tell me again how supporting that makes someone irrational. The real reason Don Lemon has a problem with black Trump supporters is because they destroy the narrative. The left needs the idea that every black American is a Democrat by default, because if that illusion crumbles, so does their grip on power. So instead of debating policy, they attack character. They say, oh, you're just doing it for attention. Oh, you're just being used, because acknowledging that millions of black Americans might actually agree with Trump and Republicans, that's the one thing they can't afford to do. So here's the truth, Don. Black Americans can think for themselves, and many of them are choosing to walk away from the party that has taken them for granted for decades. And that is what really scares you and the Democrat establishment. At the end of the day, this isn't just about Trump or Don Lemon or the latest meltdown from the left. It's about control. It's about who gets to decide what opinions are acceptable and who's allowed to think for themselves. It's about a system that demands loyalty, punishes dissent, and calls it progress. The real question isn't whether certain people can support Trump. It's why the establishment is so desperate to convince you they shouldn't. What are they afraid of? Why is independent thought treated like a threat instead of a right? And most importantly, if they have to work this hard to shame, silence, and manipulate people into submission, maybe their ideas weren't that strong to begin with. Just something to think about. Anyway, you tell me what you think in the comments down below. Have a terrific day. Peace.